Monday, July 11th, meeting of the Select Board. We've got a very full agenda tonight. Glad you're here to make it. And as customary, I ask you to stand and we pledge allegiance to our flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. So at 7 o'clock, we have a public hearing. In accordance with Chapter 138 of the Mass General Law, the Bellingham Select Board will hold a public hearing on Monday, July 11th, 2022, 7 p.m. in the Municipal Center Arcane Meeting Room on the application of Wang, I don't know if I said that correct, I apologize, Inc. DBA, Bamboo Express, Songgu Wang, manager for the transfer of the restaurant, all alcohol and common vic licenses from Bamboo Express Inc. Premises is located at 15 North Main Street, Suite B6 and B7. So I'm just going to ask that we continue for just a few minutes as we have a special event this evening. And then once the event is over, we'll ask you to come up, okay? Thank you very much. All right. So Dennis. He's getting our folks. So we have a very special event here. Yes.
It's not me.
Not special.
No, Dennis is not the special
Every day
event.
is a special day with you, Dennis.
He is special, but not an event. All right. Tonight, we are welcoming our fire departments from Bellingham, Massachusetts and Norfolk, Massachusetts, and we'll provide some details once our distinguished guests come and have a seat.
Chief Gentile is going to introduce.
Okay, all right. And I just wait till everybody comes in.
I love everyone in their dress blues for a good reason.
Come on in, gentlemen, have a seat. Ladies and gentlemen.
Come on in,
Plenty of
fill in
seats
right
up front,
hand.
please fill in.
Plenty of seats, everyone.
If there are family members, please come on in.
Come on in.
We have also plenty of room on the other side. Plenty of time. We'll take our time.
I think we didn't turn off the air.
I know, it's a good thing. And I was cold too. I'm a jacket. Are we ready? Please have a seat, ladies. Okay, you can sit up front. So I would like to introduce Chief Gentile from the Bellingham Fire Department and Chief Kinney from the Norfolk Fire Department. I'm going to turn it over to Chief Gentile for a few minutes. Chief?
Thank you. So tonight, we're coming before the board to commend Captain Robert Provost and Alexa Bethany from Norfolk Fire Department, who were in the right place at the right time. So I guess I have two commendations for both of them, please. So I'll just read it and everybody will get to know.
Excellent.
Captain Robert Provost III and Alexa Bethany, firefighter Norfolk Fire Department. I'm writing to commend you for your efforts during the incident that took place on Saturday, July 2nd, 2022, while off duty. It was explained to me that while you were at Workout World, you witnessed an elderly patron collapse onto the floor while exercising. Due to your actions and efforts, you were quickly able to identify that the patron did not have a pulse and was not breathing and was in cardiac arrest. Without your quick actions of early CPR and defibrillation, resulting in the patient being awake and talking before the fire department apparatus arrived on scene, the patient's survival rate would have been much less likely. I would like to commend you for your efforts and congratulate you on your quick response even while off duty, to help assess this medical emergency and use your paramedic knowledge to help this patient from having a much worse outcome if you had not been there to coordinate and perform the actions needed. Stephen B. Gentile, Fire Chief.
I just want to extend my sincere thanks and congratulations for your timeliness in saving the life. I know that's what you're trained to do. We are really happy that you're on our force in Norfolk. I'm sure that gentleman at Workout World is very happy you were there on that day. So on behalf of the Bellingham Select Board, takes great pride in recognizing the life-saving measures employed by Captain Robert Provost III during an emergency earlier this month. The quick action you and fellow firefighter took to save a resident who required emergency assistance clearly demonstrates the high level of skill and professionalism our community enjoys on a daily basis. The actions you exhibited, all while off duty, bring great pride to this board, the Bellingham Fire Department, and the fire profession. As a third-generation firefighter, we are certain your family is watching proudly. Congratulations and thank you for your leadership and dedication. Signed with profound gratitude this 11th day of July 2022, Don Martinez, Chairman, Kelly Grant, Vice Chairwoman, Michael J. Connor, Cynthia McNulty, and Sahin Sahin. The Bellingham Select Board takes great pride in recognizing the life-saving measures employed by Norfolk firefighter Alexa Bethany during an emergency early this month here in Bellingham. The quick action you and fellow firefighter took to save a resident who required emergency assistance clearly demonstrates the high level of skill and professionalism your community enjoys on a daily basis. The actions you exhibited, all while off duty, are greatly appreciated by and undoubtedly bring great pride to the fire professions as well as your family. Congratulations and thank you for your leadership and dedication. Signed with profound gratitude this 11th day of July 2022, Don Martinez, Chairman, Kelly Grant, Vice Chairwoman, Michael J. Connor, Cynthia McNulty, and Sahin Sahin. Thank you. Congratulations.
Like a little war zone over here.
I know.
Thank you all. Thank you all so much. Thank you.
That's all we have.
Beautiful night. Enjoy the evening.
Yes.
Wonderful. And it couldn't be a nicer night. So thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Thanks.
Thank you
Thank
everyone
you.
for coming. It's awesome when we get a full house in here for an amazing reason. It doesn't happen super often. So when we get to enjoy all these great things together, it's no words. It's awesome. Smile on my face all day. So thank you guys.
You're welcome to stay. Yeah. I got that. Great job. Very impressive. It is awesome. All right. Okay, folks, would you like to come back up? Oh, come up. You didn't come up before, so.
Thank you for your patience.
Thank you for your patience. Welcome.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Could you just introduce yourselves, please, and tell us a little bit about why you're here? We know why, but in a little bit of your background. Would be
Yes, my
great.
name is Mei Hui Hu. I represent Huang Wang Inc.
Mhm.
Next to me is Zhong Huang. He is the principal shareholder of the corporation. He's also the proposed manager. And he also is the cook, so he basically runs everything.
Chief cook and bottle washer, right?
Fortunately, he has his wife as well on board, so it's gonna be their startup business. Mr. Huang has been in restaurant business for the last 7 years now.
Okay.
He's mainly working as a hibachi chef in various hibachi restaurants in Medway, Foxborough, and his wife, Ms. Wang, who's not here today, and that's why it's Huang Wang, it's their last names.
Wang Wang, okay. Sorry about that.
Oh, no, that absolutely nothing. Mrs. is not here, but she has been working in the restaurant industry as well, as the manager, in general, managing the dining room area. So this is their first startup business together, working together, and they has much faith in Bellingham, and they've been looking for a restaurant to purchase for the last couple of years. After the COVID hit, things become a bit irregular, but they're very happy to finally find a place, and the landlord is very welcoming to them. So they can't wait to put in the time, in the efforts to build up their business here and to commit themselves here to the town as well.
Excellent. Are there any questions from the board? Everything looks.
Yeah,
in order,
it's
right?
pretty straightforward, yes.
So I'd like to call for a motion to approve the license.
I make a
Actually,
motion.
close the.
Oh, yeah, thank you. I make a motion to close the public hearing, or unless there are any questions from the our guests there, no? Okay. No, I make a motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Nay. RP, motion carries. Anybody would entertain a motion to approve the transfer license?
I make a motion to approve the transfer of license as presented here in the application.
Second.
Second by first by Mrs. Grant, second by Mr. Connor. All in favor, or any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Nay. Motion carries unanimously. Wish you all the best.
Good luck.
When are
Good
you
luck.
opening? When will you officially be opening the restaurant? Will be there a grand reopening or anything along those lines?
It will be a grand opening.
Yeah.
It will be probably another 30 to 45 days.
Okay.
It depends on how quickly ABCC can turn around
Sure.
their approval.
But well, let us know when that grand opening is. If you'd like to do something, we'd love to come down there. If you gotta cut a ribbon, get a little press.
That's very
Let
nice.
us know, see if we can help you out. Okay?
Thank you, thank
You
you,
bet.
thank you,
Good luck.
Good luck.
thank you.
So we have here a
Oh, she on-
liquor license. Is she here?
she's
Is
supposed to be
Jessica
on-
Small here?
She's supposed to be online.
Okay,
All right, hopefully she'll join us.
okay, so we'll move on. We'll come back to
Okay.
it. Okay. That's the special one-day liquor license
Yep.
to come back. So at this time, we'll ask Mr. Morano to come up and provide us with his update, please.
Good evening.
Hey, Mr. Morano, thanks for coming in.
Thank you. I'm very excited to be here tonight.
So for the
We were
audience.
waiting for the bazinga.
So in the audience, we have Mr. Morano, Superintendent of Schools, here tonight to provide the select board with an update.
And so tonight I want to use share my screen. I want to give you an update and just some discussion around some of the great things that are happening in our school district. And talk a little bit about a couple of different topics, our budget process, some of the great programs that we're creating at our high school. We'll talk a little about transportation, preschool facility, some questions at the end. So I'm going to kick it off with our budget.
Here's where we can minimize that. I don't know if the audience can see that. the window on the right-hand side.
That's. we're in.
Actually, Don, the one on the top screens are only showing it's very small one at the bottom right.
Are they? Thanks.
Absolutely. My screen, I'm gonna stop the share. Just make size of, So,
There it is.
so our budget process, so how do we create our budget? We look at several different things. We look at research, we look at every department throughout the entire district and what are the needs. We analyze and use data to provide not just our local school district data, but also we look at state and historical data to have a good understanding of where we are in our budget process and what we need again. The budget is presented to the school committee for approval. But before that happens, we go through a pretty long process. We start our budget process in October. I meet with the administrative team. We talk about needs and wants, and really start from zero and build our budget each and every year. So it's not a rubber stamp where we pass it over year to year. We start from zero and build. And then we go through a process of reviewing the needs. I'm in constant contact with Mr. Frayne on where we're at in the process and what kinds of things we're looking at. And then we bring it to school committee on 2 Saturdays in January and February. And the administrative team presents the budget to the school committee. And that's an open meeting. And then they're able to ask questions and dig a little bit deeper. From there, we come to a final budget number and crunch some of those numbers down so that we can come to a budget that we can present to not just the town, but the school committee and to all our constituents to have a really comprehensive plan. And then obviously we go through the town meeting process. So we look at a lot of different things throughout the whole process. And again, it starts very early in October. Next slide. There we go. What are our drivers? So what drives our expenses? A lot of different things. Student learning options, one of the most important. We look at, what do we want to provide our students with? We want to make sure that it's rigorous, it's culturally relevant, and that we have resources and programs that support all the individual goals. We look at students that are in low income and have to understand and recognize what needs they may have. We look at inflation. We do have increasing costs every year. Whether it be utilities, contractual obligations, those things increase. We look at special education. That's very important because that we have a number of students who require special education services. We want to make sure we provide them with the same curriculum access as any student. And again, those costs increase year to year. Our technology and information systems. I have to say I am incredibly proud of where we are with our tech. We had a 5-year technology plan, and we were able to complete it within 4. So we were ahead of the curve, and our students, really starting in 7th grade, have one-to-one access to Chromebooks. And we have devices for just about every student starting in K. So we're really proud of what's happened there and the support we've gotten from the town. But also, we've built a very, Mr. Garofano has built a very comprehensive kind of security process with firewalls and ability to make sure that we're not getting hacked. And he can explain it much better than I can, but he's built a great network for us to work on. So we're very, very fortunate. We also look at our buildings. So our buildings age every year, and we have to really consider the maintenance needs of those buildings and the facilities and how to best utilize the spaces too. Okay. So those are our drivers and our expenses that we look at as we start the process. I wanted to give you a little snapshot of our enrollment. So we're part of NESDEC, which is the New England School Development Council. And because we're members, they do an enrollment study for us every year. They'll actually do one for us every 6 months if I ask. They do a very comprehensive enrollment study. So they don't just look at how many students you had the last 5 years. They'll go back and they'll actually go forward, looking at how many births you had, what's the expected number of births, how many housing developments are going up in town. And they extrapolate all that information, come up with an enrollment figure or data. And as you can see on the slide, our enrollment is decreasing. It has been over the last 10 years. Right now, we have 1,900 students as of June 30th. They're anticipating by 2031 will be around 1,500 students. So over the next 10 years, we'll be down another 400 students.
Even with all the development, they're still projecting it to be down that much?
Correct.
Why?
Families aren't having a lot of kids,
Having two children, 1 to 2 children.
1 to 2 children.
I think the options that families have today too, as far as education goes, it's not just, I'm gonna go to Bellingham Public Schools.
Yeah.
A lot of people exercise their options, or school choice or charter school or.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's a trend that's going on throughout the state that actually in New England in general, that they're seeing a reduction in enrollment in many towns. I only know one town that actually is seeing an increase in enrollment, and that's Hopkinton. They've had a massive amount of homes that have gone in the last couple of years. And they've seen an increase of, now with all the homes that they've put in, it's only been an increase of about 100 students. So they're not seeing a dramatic increase. So when we talk about building developments, and the impact on schools, the impact is minimal because again, people aren't having 2, 3, or 4 kids. So our enrollment is going down. The good thing is we're seeing some stabilization. This particular slide is broken out by K through 3, 4 through 7, and 8 through 12, which is the configuration that we currently have. And what we're seeing in K to 3 is a stabilization over the next 10 years in that enrollment. So that's good. We're seeing a decrease in 8 through 12. So what does that mean? That means we need to do a really good job of providing programs and opportunities for our kids through 8 through 12 so that they stay in Bellingham, that they don't leave. So that number or that trend line can stay stable also.
Mr. Murphy, you look at 2019, and it just seems like there was a big drop off in the K through 3. And you look at a more kind of level drop off in the other, 4 to 7, 4 to 7 from 2020 to 2021, but the 8 through 12 seems like it's going down, but it's not as sharp a decline. You may not have the research, but I wonder just what that, any anecdotal reasons why you may have seen a sharp decline in K to 3. Is it the chart? That's what I thought, but I wanted the public to know. Yeah.
When the charter school was given the ability to expand their enrollment, we took a significant hit.
Yeah, that's what I thought. But if anyone's watching, I want people to realize.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And in fact, this year we took another, not as big as that one, but we did take another hit in K to 3. The charter school.
Okay.
And just so you know, I go back and look at these numbers. So historically, I'll map them, NESDEC's numbers to our numbers, our actual, and they're pretty darn close.
So proportionally for the charters like Franklin, did Franklin have the same type of decline as we did here in, from that K through 3, or do you have any sense if it was?
Yeah.
They may have had more because it's just a larger population,
Right.
but I'm thinking proportionally, was it about the same for other towns?
That I don't know.
You don't know?
Yeah, so they don't share with us who's going to the charter school from our
Okay.
town. So, I can find out some information from the other superintendents, but there isn't something that I can draw from to pull.
Okay. You know why I'm asking?
Yeah,
Because I'm just trying to understand if there's a bigger reason other than the charter schools. Like proportionally, do we lose more students than the area towns? And what can we do to stop that from happening? Because we all know what the expense is to the town when we lose students to charter school. It's a big burden on the town. As you know.
yeah. So I think people need to understand it's not just that you lose Chapter 70 funds, because now your enrollment goes down. But
Right.
the town also pays the charter school.
That's
There's
right.
a portion that goes to the charter school, so you're taking kind of
A double hit. Yeah.
And I know there is some reimbursement back from the state, but doesn't cover the entire cost.
Thank you.
Sure. I also wanted to capture a little bit of around selected populations. So even though our enrollment is decreasing, the needs of students is increasing. And I'd venture to say dramatically. So this data I pulled from the Department of Education, and you can look at historically, starting in 2017 and 18, all the way to 21, 22. These are some of the categories that we look at. So the first one is first language, not English. So that's students who come to us not having English as their first language. And you can see that we've gone from 3.9% to this past year to 6.6. 2021 and 22, we saw a huge increase in the number of students who needed L services, English language learner services. We had about 40 students who are deemed as L, or English as a second language, and that number doubled in 1 year. So we're at 80. That's never happened in my career here.
Yeah.
I've never seen it increase that amount. So that, and you'll see then in some of the proposals I have, some of the following slides on what we need to do with that. But that was a tremendous increase. Our students with disabilities has stayed pretty steady, around close to 20%. The state average is about 18.9. So we have a little bit more than the state average. Students in low income, tremendous amount, from 19.2 5 years ago to 32.4.
Wow.
That's a huge number of students that are deemed low income.
Peter, question for you. What is the threshold that defines low income? Is it, I'm sure there's
There's a formula.
is it like,
It's a how much each parent makes.
no, I get that. I'm just curious what the amount was. Like,
Yeah, that, I
what's
don't
else?
have that off the top of my head.
Okay, just curious.
And then the number of high needs kids, again, that's gone up around 11%. High needs is anybody who falls with any one of those categories or multiple categories. So if a student is student with disabilities and is low income, that's in high needs. So it can be in multiple categories. So they can lump it into one, which is high needs. So again, enrollment's decreasing, student needs are increasing. And this doesn't capture the students who need additional support around social emotional learning. Right, that's not captured in any of the data we have, but we've seen since the pandemic, a lot more students need that additional support.
Do you think that DESI will eventually start to capture that kind of data because it has become so prevalent in the school systems?
I'm not sure. I don't think so, because I think it's really difficult for them to capture that data. There's so much to look at. So would you look at the number of kids who are hospitalized, the number of kids who need additional counseling, the number of kids who are dysregulated through the day? There's a lot of factors. So I think it's hard for them to kind of pull that data together. We look at that data through surveys, locally, and we are seeing a tremendous increase in the needs of kids to have around social emotional and mental health. It's concerning. It's
As a parent, it's very,
It's
yes.
I also wanted to kind of highlight our student attending list. So these are kids who leave our district. And you can see that we've had some kids, we have kids who go to vocational schools. We were up around 109 this past year. We're down to 88 students who are going to vocational school. And that includes Blackstone Valley Tech and Tri-County. It can actually include any vocational school. So a student who wants to go to, let's say, Assabet Valley can go to Assabet Valley if they choose to, and are able to get themselves there. So our primary, our kids go to Blackstone Valley Tech, but we do have some that go to Tri-County. And I mentioned Assabet Valley, so we do have a student that will attend. Our charter school numbers, as you can see, increased dramatically over the last 3 years. We're around 162 at the end of 21-22. School choice has increased. It's ticked up to 125. Number of homeschooled decreased a little bit. In-state, so that's a student who might go to a private parochial in-state school, say Xaverian or Bishop Fian. So we saw a pretty big decrease in 2021, but again, a little bit of an increase in 21-22. And then out of state, again, would be like Mount St. Charles or Mercy, any outside school that's parochial or private. So the charter school certainly has hit us hard, the number of kids who've gone. And that, the charter school that our kids go to is in Franklin, Franklin Classical Charter School. And, that's, I believe, all of our students go there.
And we have to provide transportation there, correct?
We do not.
We do not, okay.
Tri-county, we do.
Tri-county, we, okay, that's where, yeah.
Yeah, Tri-county. Charter, we do not. Any questions on it?
Yeah.
And do we provide transportation with BUT too?
They provide transportation.
We have to provide transportation to Tri-County even though that's not our vocational school.
Correct.
Why?
State requires it.
Even though it's not our. That's interesting.
That's because BVT is, curriculum is established, and if they go to Tri-County, they're participating in a curriculum that BVT doesn't offer.
That does happen. So the only way a student really goes to Tri-County is if Blackstone Valley Tech does not have a program that the student is looking for. So they can go to Tri-County under that. But the reason why Blackstone Valley Tech is part of our consortium with Blackstone Valley, and they have their own transportation, that's provided to us because we're part of the consortium. Tri-County is outside of our consortium. And under the vocational school requirements, we have to provide transportation for students who want to go to that vocational school.
But not to ask.
But not, I was just thinking that, but not to ask it.
Yeah.
What?
What's the difference?
I was gonna ask the same question. What's the difference?
There isn't.
But there was, yeah,
No, we would, if a student wanted to go to Assabet and they went through the process and I would probably deny it. They could go to the town, the state and petition to go there and they could get there. We would be on the hook for transportation. Yep.
thanks for the info.
So I want to talk about the positions we've added for FY23. So during the pandemic, those 2 years of the pandemic, we added multiple positions through a lot of different means, through our budget, through grants from the state, to help keep our class sizes down, provide additional coverage when needed. We were able to bring in additional counselors, for social emotional needs. We added a district-wide social worker. But some of those positions we didn't need going forward. And we didn't need to build them into our budget. So we were able to reduce those. And we recognized, though, we needed to add some positions for FY23 because of the needs, like I talked about earlier in those first two slides. So the first thing we did is we added a Wilson teacher. So Wilson is a reading program for students who have difficulty reading, whether it's dyslexia or another reading deficit. So we were contracting outside providers to provide Wilson to our students. We much rather have that person in-house to provide those services, so we added that position. At the end of the day, it was a wash in the budget because it was the same amount they were contracting out, then we have it inside. We increased our L teachers. We had a combination of L teachers and L tutors. Again, with such an increase in number of kids who need the services, we needed to go to all L teachers. So now each building has just about a full-time position, an L teacher, which again, they provide additional support for kids in the building. So the process is kids who need L services, they get full exposure. They go to all their classes, they get exposure in the language, they're learning, not just math, but again, English. But now we're able to pull them for certain services that they can get one-to-one, some translation services, some additional English language services, especially at the high school. So now we're able to provide more robust programming with those kids. The next two positions we're very excited about. We were able to get an innovation pathway at the high school. So innovation pathways are, it's a series of courses that kids can take starting in grade 9, which lead them to, it can lead to a certification, it could lead to exposure to a certain career path. We have two pathways that were approved from the Department of Ed. One is engineering and manufacturing, and the other is health sciences. So our kids who choose to be in this program, it's a sign-up process. They can follow a certain track of courses from grade 9 all the way to grade 12 that will lead to certification. It'll lead to internship. It'll lead to a lot of amazing opportunities. So we needed to increase our science teacher at the high school, add another science position at the high school for the innovation pathway, and a career counselor to help track kids through that process.
So they have to be started when they're ninth graders? When they're
Ideally, not you started ninth
So
grade,
not basically doesn't really apply for the current kids.
right? They can still take the courses, as long as they're available spots, they can take the courses that are in that track. But you really need to start in grade 9 through the entire track to build that, kind of that portfolio of the pathway. It's super exciting. We haven't had anything like this. It's a relatively new kind of initiative through the state. It's been around for just a couple of years, and this is the start where we have 2 pathways. We want to build a couple more in the next year because I think, and I believe that this is really what kids need, is really robust programming that are courses that are cutting edge. And I think I don't know if I've talked to the board here about Project Lead the Way. Project Lead the Way are courses that we prescribe to that are really rigorous, again, focused on engineering, on health sciences, that bring kids to those levels of opportunity that we wouldn't have in the past. So I'm super excited about it. I think this is going to be a great opportunity for our students. And then we talk about keeping kids. This is one way to do that. And then we also increased our clerk at BMS, and we added a 0.5 pre-K teacher, again, hoping to expand our pre-K opportunities.
So is that an additional clerk in the office at BMS in addition to the 2, so there'll be 3 full-time now?
One clerk was full-time, 12 months, and the other clerk was 10 months. So that they'll both be 12 months.
Okay.
And the reasoning around that was at the high school, there's a 10-month and a 12-month clerk, but there's also a guidance secretary. BMS does not have one. So we see a lot of registrations that happen over the summer. So this again provide an extra layer of support for the registrations.
So you're really just adding 2 months,
2 months.
not to, okay.
Correct.
Can I ask you a question? The innovative pathway, how does the student get chosen to be in that?
It's a process. So you sign up,
Yeah.
and then you'll meet with your counselor. You talk about the coursework, the pathway, they'll gauge your interest, and then kind of move from there. Our hope is that everyone who applies goes through it.
Is there a limited, obviously limited amount of?
Now that we've added the science position, I think we'll be able to service. From last time I heard from the high school, this is where people break. We had about 60 kids who signed up, and we'll be able to meet the needs of all 60.
Wow.
So we're excited.
It was interesting doing course selection because I have an 8th grader going to 9th grade, so that's the
Right.
age group. So you looked at 2 different sections. You actually looked at the pathways like first, and if that's what you want to do, then you start your course selection based on that.
Okay.
My daughter didn't want to do that, so we went the traditional route. But you going into that 9th grade position, then you have 2 different ways to look at it, and you can look at all the courses that you'd have to take in 9th grade to go through it, but then all the way to the end. So it's really informative. That's super exciting, and it's exciting that so many kids took advantage of it.
And the student who jumps into the program and decides like sophomore year, I don't want to do it anymore, they can come out. They're not married to it for the next 4 years. Our hope is they are.
Yeah.
Right now, again, it's a great opportunity. And again, as we develop more pathways, there'll be other opportunities for kids to develop. So we're excited. This next slide, just a quick pie chart on 2 parts of our budget. The first one is on our salaries. So 80% of our salary line is contracted salaries. About 3% is on stipends and tutors, and about 1.5% on substitutes. So a majority of our salary line budget is on contracted salaries. And our non-salary lines, you can see the breakdown, about 26% is contracted services. So that's, again, anybody we bring into the district to provide services for kids or that we service out. Employee benefits, around 3%. Tuition, so that's out of district tuition, a student who may go to a school for special education services. And then utilities around 15%, tech around 8%. So that's the breakdown of our non-salary expenses. In total, our budget is pretty much comprised of 80% is salaries, and then the rest is that non-salary piece. So our budget is driven mostly by salaries, about 80%. And finally, just a general budget summary. This is just a review of FY22 and 23. So our budget went up 3.18%, or $886,419. Our Chapter 70 state aid went up $64,000, not a tremendous increase. The town share was up about $821,679. And then that last one can be a little confusing. So it's the town share above required minimum contribution. So you can see that it's a decrease of about 12%. So what happened was, and I'm not going to explain this perfectly, but there was a change in the foundation formula that the state creates based on this. It's called the SOA, which is the Student Opportunity Act. So Student Opportunity Act is the state was providing additional funding to every town based on your enrollment. Some towns, depending on the number of kids they have and their high needs, got a bigger share, a bigger portion of that money than, say, we did. So we got about $30 per kid. In a neighboring town got a lot more. So it all depends on their student population. So because of that, they changed the foundation formula a bit. So it established a higher foundation budget for each town. So while Bellingham's required share increased by about 8%, the amount contributed above and beyond the required amount went down. So the state made those changes to try to get more equality in what each town was contributing across the Commonwealth. So it's trying to kind of make it a little more equal. I don't know if I agree with it. It's kind of new right now, so we'll kind of see how it goes from there.
Couple questions for this one. So our ELL and special high needs kids increased dramatically, yet our reimbursement rate went down. Second question,
Didn't go up enough to
cover it.
Right.
So what is the criteria that determines the town share? Is it a percentage of the town's budget?
No, it's based on your foundation budget. Chapter 70 is really difficult to explain. It's based off your foundation budget, number of students, those two factors. Those are the big factors.
So do you, I presume you have data that shows surrounding towns what their town share percentage is, so that if anecdotally we were to be criticized for not funding enough, we could say, if we fund X amount more,
Yep.
And in particular with our tax base being X amount below the average as well, you put the two and two together, that's impressive.
Correct. The problem is I can't give you that data for every town because the state only provides us with. So the current data on the state website is from 2019. So I don't have, that's when things started to change a little bit. So I don't have current.
But at some point we'll have it that we could share.
How big is the difference? Okay, compared to surrounding towns. As your knowledge.
I think I'm not comfortable answering. I couldn't
Okay.
answer that. I could get that data for you, but
Okay.
yeah, it depends town to town. But I can get some of that for you.
We had an hour-long seminar from the state on Chapter 70. It's very complicated and painful.
It is, and I'll be honest. There are some towns that benefit from Chapter 70 more than we do. There's a town right next to us that benefits greatly from Chapter 70, the way the formula was created, and for us it doesn't work as well. It's just the way it worked. So I think they're trying to fix some of that, but they're not there. All right, let's shift gears a little bit, still on budget, but we're gonna talk a little bit about ESSER. So ESSER is our, I guess, like our ARPA money that the town got. ESSER's our portion that we got from the state. So we had ESSER 1, we had ESSER 2, and now we're into ESSER 3. ESSER 1, we got about $100,000. ESSER 2, we got around $200,000. ESSER 3, we got about $400,000. We've already spent 1 and 2, and those were targeted towards positions that we needed through COVID, right? So this was all to help with COVID. So now ESSER 3 came out, and this is really that post, I hate to say post-COVID, but kind of a recovery from COVID and trying to meet the needs of kids. So it was broken out into 4 buckets. The first one is enhanced core instruction. So with these are the criteria that you could develop your plan around. So what we did with that, some of the monies from ESSER is we purchased a new curriculum for math, ELA, and history textbooks. We purchased screeners to identify individual student learning gaps with a focus on literacy. And again, we'll be implementing those in the fall. Those screeners will then inform us on what interventions kids will need, what progress monitoring they will need, and it'll also provide monies for after-school tutoring. So we're actually doing some this summer, and we're going to continue with it in the fall. It also provided a professional development for our co-teaching staff on high-quality, inclusive intervention strategies. And those are aimed at addressing the disproportionality between the impact of COVID and the subgroups, the underserved student subgroups like special education. It worked in providing funding on summer transition programs that we created and a credit recovery opportunity that we have at the high school. So we looked at core instruction, targeted student supports, and then talent development of staff. We used it for increasing opportunities for art and enrichment and language, mostly for art and enrichment opportunities. And then the last bucket is social, emotional, and mental health supports. So we're using the funding to increase the number of highly trained staff to support students across the schools. We have put in for a partnership with Interface. Are you familiar with Interface? Yeah. So it's out of William and James College. And what happens is when you become a member, any one of our faculty, students, parents, if they have any needs around social and emotional issues, mental health, we can give them a resource. It's like a hotline. They can call Interface, and they will connect them with someone who will help schedule their appointment to a counselor. Make sure that they're going through their appointment. Really provide the foundation for them to get there and see somebody to help with their mental health and wellness. So it's like a referral hotline. So that's built in. And we also increased our professional development opportunities around social emotional learning for staff. And we're paying for a district social worker who also works with families very closely. So all in all, we're trying to increase all the services and opportunities for kids and families so that they can transition from this post-COVID really difficult situation into something, get back to some normality. Any questions on that? So, little talk about curriculum. Mrs. Rafferty put these slides together for me. She would do them much more justice than I did. We were very fortunate that the town approved funding for our ELA curriculum. So Mrs. Rafferty wrote a grant through the Department of Ed, and she secured about $200,000. And then the town contributed another, I think it was another $150,000 to revamp or purchase a brand new curriculum K through 8 for the entire district, which is phenomenal. So actually it impacts the high school also. So what was chosen was preschool. They're going to use World of Wonders, kindergarten through grade 5 Wonders, and grade 6 through 8 Study Center. So this curriculum materials, it's perfect for our teachers. It has everything that they need for every lesson, for every student throughout the entire school year. And we make sure that It is highly rated, it's rigorous, and it provides for every student. So whether you have a learning disability or you struggle in some aspects of ELA, it has all the resources built in. So this is going to be a huge thing for us, and we're super excited. Mrs. Rafferty went into why did we choose this McGraw-Hill product, and I won't go through all of it, but she outlined around it meets the needs of high quality curriculum through ed reports. We look at two things: ed reports and curate criteria. So those are high quality materials that we're going to use. Let's go to the next slide. This is just a little bit about the process that you went through. It has smartboard technology. It builds on foundational skills. Culturally appropriate. It provides tier 2 and tier 3 supports. When we look at student needs, we break it down into 3 tiers. So tier 1 is in-class supports. Tier 2 is a student who may need to be pulled out for additional support that goes back to their classroom. And tier 3 is you're out of the classroom and you have your own individualized program. Any questions on that curriculum? We're super excited. We have a lot of professional development going on for our staff to utilize this curriculum to its fullest extent. So we're excited. All right. Next, BV Excel. This is something I've been working on with the area superintendents in the Blackstone Valley for the last 3 years. There's 14 communities in the Blackstone Valley. We have meetings like once a month. And at one of our meetings about 3 years ago, we said, hey, it's really difficult to build programming for kids for all of us to do it. Uxbridge has a great manufacturing program that they've created in engineering. Blackstone Millville has some video programming that they've created. Well, I can't do all that because it's enough cost. So we talked about how can we share resources to build opportunities for kids. So we developed this BV Excel program. So we collaborate. It's a collaboration model for the Blackstone Valley School District to provide non-traditional course offerings that will expose students to career options, building industry skills, and provide workforce opportunities that would be difficult to offer in isolation. So we're combining all of our resources and offering these opportunities for students. Each one of the courses is a credit-bearing course towards high school graduation. Okay? And right now, we're being funded through this incredible grant through the American Student Assistance Program. So we got a grant for $500,000 to start our program. And it's going to run for a couple of years. And the goal is to expand and make a model for other districts to use. So we're super excited. And I'll send you this PowerPoint because there's a link to the Blackstone, the BV Excel website that you can check out.
I have to say, I went up to the presentation that we were invited to at Hopedale High School, and I was really impressed not only with just the enthusiasm of the superintendents, but the students that were there. And then after the presentation, we went downstairs to the library, and they had different, say, vignettes set up where the students were showing off some of the things they've learned. And you could just see it was just a whole exposing to other types of learning. Without having to go to Blackstone, the tech school or whatever, they could pick these and choose these classes. And I was really impressed. It was a $500,000 grant. I think was a big grant. It was I think the enthusiasm of the presenters about how they were able to get that grant was impressive. It was fun.
We had to
It's
see
really nice.
the welding program.
Yeah.
Right? So they have an electronic welding simulator. So you put this helmet on and you grab a welding tool, and you can see yourself welding, materials through this virtual reality. So kids learn how to weld through that device. That's one of the courses that was offered. There was manufacturing and tech 1 and 2, cybersecurity, intro to health careers, welding, 2D video game design, which was a Bellingham course, robotics, which is another Bellingham course, and video lab production. So the courses run virtually, but they have one session per week that they need to meet in person. whether that's at the school, or we also utilize the Ed Hub in Laytonsville, which has some of the equipment that some of these programs need. The additional great part of this is that we're building business partners also. So we have Algonquin Industries in Bellingham that we're partnering with, Waters, Staples, and these are all partnerships that our kids will benefit from because they can go and do internships at those businesses. So again, just super excited about these opportunities. Just a little bit more, I can we already kind of talked about admission pathways, but this gives students coursework and experience in specific high demand industries such as information tech, engineering, healthcare. Again, creates that strong partnership with employers. So one of the requirements to be in an admission pathway is you have to have a connection with an employer. So we have several that we're working with. And again, kids will get exposed to high level careers. All right, transportation. Mr. Roach joined me. So this is a kind of a hot topic that we're kind of discussing. So this current year, we actually purchased 3 vans to help reduce the cost of our out-of-district transportation. The vans started March, April that we got them on the road.
Yeah, very beginning of March. Yeah,
Yep.
March 1st for one of them.
And we already, just in the short time, saw savings. Our transportation budget increased by only 2.25%, or about $70,000. And we were seeing an increase around
7 to 12% over the last few years. I think is the,
So we see a huge value in purchasing vans to run our out-of-district transportation. Typically, before the vans, we would contact a second provider. They would have a route for us. We would spend how much per day?
The highest I've seen is $400 a day for a quote to come in. The highest one this year, I think, was $319 a day for one student to be transported to Worcester.
So that didn't seem fiscally.
Teleportation.
Yeah.
You would think.
It didn't seem fiscally responsible to continue that process.
Yep.
So it was much more, it was much smarter to purchase a couple of vans, 3 vans, and have our own drivers and try to reduce that aspect of the budget, which we did see some savings and some reduction. We're looking to purchase 2 more vans this summer. Again, we'll be able to add additional routes for those students. And what Mike did was he took the routes that were most beneficial for us to save and utilize our vans for those. But there's other opportunities that we can utilize those vans too also. So I'll let you add to that.
So as these vans hit the road, we're not only able to provide transportation to and from some out-of-district schools, bringing students to a special education placement outside of Bellingham, which is typically what we contract these routes out for. But we were also able to actually cut a bus this year at the end of the year. It worked out really well, both for us and our bus vendor, because there was a loss of a staff member that moved out of the area. And it was a route that only had a small number of kids on there. So we were able to kind of redistrict some things and have a van take over a bus route, which saved us quite a bit of money there, more than most of the out-of-district van runs. Also gave us some in-district capabilities to be able to do some preschool midday transportation with these vans as well, because they're not being utilized in the middle of the day otherwise. And we also found some opportunities during April vacation, where we ran a program during April vacation from Mrs. Rafferty and her department. So we were able to provide a lot of that transportation ourselves. We've been able to do some shuttles for the high school to do demonstrations at our elementary schools. We had 3 presentations in May and June to bring students to Stallbrook and DePietro to do some stuff down there. And we just helped with the Special Olympics, bring the students there. And all of that would have been buses that we would have had to contract out for those transportation services for just 10 to 15 kids. So it certainly would have been wasteful to have a 71 passenger bus for just 14, 15 kids. And then we're also looking with other surrounding districts, trying to find ways to partner with them, seeing what we can do of sharing some of these costs and maybe picking up a student in a neighboring town that we're going to the same school. We're still in the infancy of that program, but we're looking at that. And these vans for next year, I'm projecting over $100,000 in savings just from the 3 vans that we already have, which is certainly why we are looking to purchase a few more. And we're building it little by little. We're not trying to replace all of our out-of-district transportation. Not all of them could we do cheaper than contracting out. So like Mr. Milano said, we kind of cherry pick what are the best ones that are going to suit us the best and not overstretch our capabilities and then just not have enough runs. At some point, you have to lay off, so have excess equipment.
Great. Is the greatest risk having substitute drivers?
That is definitely a challenge. The transportation industry for the past few years has had a huge problem staffing transportation. That's bus and van. However, van has been a little easier to find. More people are more apt to do the smaller certifications called 7D. It's an 8-hour, it's actually a 2-hour course that you have to do to get your 70 and then 8 hours annually to maintain it. And it's not as rigorous as a CDL with a school bus passenger endorsement. So typically you're able to staff those a little bit better, a little bit easier. But right now we do have 3 drivers. We have myself and dispatcher. Myself and the dispatcher are the backup drivers as of right now. And I can say today, both myself and my dispatcher have to do runs because sometimes we
Are you looking, do you have those posted anywhere?
we don't have any active positions open right now because all the positions, permanent positions are filled. But I will be looking to post substitute positions to see if we can find anybody. Just, there hasn't been a lot of.
Just wondering if the senior tax workers are an option there at pinch.
I would love to. I've tried to get them for to be bus monitors, but the pay just wasn't attractive enough to entice them to do that. More than happy to see if we can get some of them on board.
We also work with a consultant, Rich DeBree, and Mike's been working very closely with him. He's a transportation expert. Right? He's been really helping us through the entire process. He provided a great synopsis or what options we have. He's actually working with us right now to do the bidding for our in-district transportation. So that goes out to bid. Actually, it's actually out to bid.
It's out to bid right now.
And, to see that will look like for the following year. I will say we're going to look at all options to save, which could include self-operating our district transportation too. So it's something that the school committee will consider as that information comes in within the next few weeks into August. So those are opportunities that we need to look at to determine how do we save money in transportation.
So for all this
Yeah, I mean, all the funds that are saved in transportation is money that we're able to reinvest in education, and that's
Right.
what we.
Yeah. So the decision on the going out to bid, that's for the fiscal 24 year, correct?
Correct.
So when is the decision window? Like, is it January or
No.
lead time for buses and everything else?
Yeah, September.
That's
It's about a 9-month lead time. If we were to self-operate, we would need at least 9 months to be able to get those buses guaranteed delivery here in Bellingham before July 1st of next year. So we're ready to run when FY24 starts.
That's partly why we went out to bid early. Usually we don't go to bid till like January, February. The school committee decided, let's start early and let's look at what would it cost to continue the process we have right now? What would it cost to do self-operating? And what savings can we capture on either end? Make the best decision.
It's like a huge difference. I'm assuming it isn't, right? Like a huge difference doing it in-house than contracting another company.
Yeah, I mean, there's savings there when we do it in-house, for sure.
The study that was done was actually done in December of 2020. This bid process will give us updated actual numbers, not post-COVID, but post-COVID as we're entering that recovery stage to see what the market is looking like right now for transportation vendors, because we've seen some big changes for new contracts in the past year for new bids in other districts that have happened come in. So this will give us real current data to work with.
I saw one from a colleague was around 10% increase in their transportation budget.
Yeah,
So that's a big number.
yeah. 10 to 28% is what the
And
consultant
also you can say they have it in-house, you will give you more flexibility to run the routes the way you want to do it.
We actually do
Do it,
already,
yeah.
we do the runs the way that I actually create the runs for Bellingham, so we already do have that piece of the responsibility. But if the report dictates that the savings is going to be there based on the bid results, it'll certainly save us some money, and it'll give us other avenues of savings and in district opportunities, just like the vans were doing, to be able to run trips at minimal cost in town.
So there's a lot of things to consider
Flexibility.
too, right? So we gotta think about, can we get drivers?
Right.
That's a big concern, you know, because I know all those companies are struggling.
Mhm.
You know, there's other factors that the school committee have to look at.
Yes.
Cost to maintain a fleet of buses, which we don't have to do right now.
Just think about insurance,
Insurance.
liability. I
Yes.
mean, you know, all of those costs, I'm sure you're factoring it all in. I'm not saying things you don't know already, but when you start thinking about all those factors, like, is it really worth it? Is it that much value add to do it in-house as opposed to let them deal with all that liability and the insurance and all that extra? To me, it's,
Yep.
man, oh man, that'd keep me up at night, honestly, to think about all the buses. We're managing it, we're doing it. If there's one bus accident, oh my goodness. Yes, yes, please.
Yeah, go ahead. All right, so as everyone's raised all the important issues that are gonna be part of this decision. It's
Yeah.
not gonna be an easy decision.
No.
Trying to gather all the data early to make the decision. And I always feel necessary to say too, we've been very happy with the relationship we've had with our vendors for years and years and years, literally over 40 years. Any buses, and it's come through for this town, and we've worked in great partnership with them. It has nothing to do with that relationship, with the service provided, but it's the amount of money is large, right? And it goes up exponentially, not exponentially, maybe exaggeration, but it goes up a lot. And so it's critically important, we feel, to look at this. But it's like you said, you know, it gives you flexibility, but it's taking on a whole kettle of fish. I mean, it's a lot more employees, you know, it's a lot, it's burdens in different ways, and we certainly want to consider that. But there are communities that successfully do it and have captured great savings. And, you know, so if this step is taken, it's going to have to be methodical and in consideration of all those things. So,
No, I appreciate
guess
you
I just wanna say we're
considering it.
mindful of
No, I
those
think
things.
it's fantastic you're even considering that. My head would just, I think, would explode thinking about all of that, so. But
Well,
why
I mean, it's like we're
consider?
talking about now, I mean, Mike and his dispatcher have to drive vans, right? So now we'll be taking that on too. When
Yeah.
someone calls in sick and so we got 5 drivers out, gotta run school.
Right.
Get those buses on the road.
So we're actually wondering if any of you want to be drivers with a sub-driver.
Sure, working.
I just let my 7D laps last year, actually.
You had yours? I didn't know you had yours.
I had, when I worked at Tech, I had to have one to drive the van, so I just.
We'll get you recertified. No problem.
You got it.
Geez, if the seniors are saying no because the pay is too low, I don't know.
The driver-
I mean, for senior citizens.
We actually have the
saying-
highest, I'll give a plug for our drivers for
Yeah.
any in the community that's looking. We have the highest 7D driver rate of any community around. That's including the van transportation commercial companies. So that is a boom that we do have there. One of the transportation vendors called me one day and he goes, "What are you doing to me?" And I said, "Sorry, we had to be competitive so we could retain drivers." And we've been very
Not
fortunate.
sorry.
Not so, sorry, not sorry, but we've been very fortunate. We found 3 drivers right off the bat. They've been wonderful, very, very good with the kids, and reliable. But everyone needs time off. There's always, you know, family functions, events, that they need to attend to. And so we're trying to be very receptive to that. Is that it?
I want to talk just a little bit about preschool facility. So Franny and I had a conversation with like a year, 2 years ago. Or 2.
It's ongoing.
It's ongoing. So there's an opportunity, there's obviously a development that's going in town, and part of that is that they would cover some costs.
$20,000 per building permit for the 170 unit
That's great.
development back here, and that's part of the decision, so.
Yep, so he asked me what's something the school department could, you know, really benefit from, and my first thought was a centralized preschool facility right next to our high school. I think that there's a lot of opportunity to, one, having a centralized preschool program. Again, providing easier access for families, but also it opens up a whole lot of other opportunities around Chapter 74 vocational programs, early childhood certification for our students. So our kids could go into, create again another pathway for early childhood certification. And the town would benefit with Chapter 74 funding that's what vocational schools get. because we would make it a certification program. So I think I'm super excited about it. We're really in the beginning exploring phase. We need to do a feasibility study and then an architectural analysis. Would that be a build out from the high school? Would it be a separate building? I kind of was leaning towards a separate building on the high school property. But again, we need to go through that process. But I'm really excited and looking forward to providing more information to you all in the next few months on what that would look like.
Just that land on the left-hand side coming up the high school driveway, I think would be a perfect location.
There, I was
Or
also looking at
to the right.
to the right. Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Off to the right, where the woods are, right near the parking lot. Easy access to the school. The parking lots right there.
And if there was visibility of that school along the road, it just makes the town, it just does something for the town. It's wonderful preschool building. As people come into the town, thinking about moving into the town, they see this beautiful building, innovative, new.
I know we've talked before, MSBA funding, any indication as to whether or not that might be an opportunity?
I've reached out, I haven't heard back yet. We're in the process right now, so we've missed that first step. They'll go back and we can, in the fall, we can reach back out and see if there's an option. I think it's around 50% reimbursement right now, roughly, if it's an approved project. Right. It has its pros and cons going through MSBA. But they dictate a little bit on the facility, who you're going to use as a vendor to build. It's a little bit more.
Much longer process.
Yeah.
This question might be for Dennis, but relative to the timing, is this something that we are spending the funds in advance of the Redbone project? Where will those funds come from? Obviously, we're going to be reimbursed once it happens.
I think the preliminary work should get underway exactly as you're doing right now. Before we get into the actual big dollars, which are the construction dollars, we want to make sure that project is starting. And as we've talked before, one of the options would be to borrow in anticipation of those funds coming in. So if we were ready to move with a construction project that might cost $4 or $5 million, authorize it through borrowing, knowing that we have these funds coming in to assist with the debt payments. But I think we have to certainly wait until we're sure. I mean, all
We have to
indications
have
are.
the commitment, but we have to have, they're gonna start, he can just say, I've decided not to do the project.
But I think it makes sense to get the preliminary steps,
agree,
the feasibility study going, and so it's all told, it's probably at least a 3-year process. I would think. I'm just guessing. Anyway, yeah. So I think it's great that the feasibility work starting, and I love the idea of children in the school system having the opportunity to participate in the program, because we have so many graduates that go on for degrees in education. This is just something that may make our school system that much more attractive.
And you don't lose the students who end up wanting to go to Tri-County, because BBT does not have an early childhood. So Tri-County is the other option, and then you've got other costs associated with that. So you keep all those in-house. Yeah.
That's great.
And I think, like as Mr. Frank said, it's a really nice opportunity. Milford does something like that now, and they've had great success with it, and it keeps their kids in, and it builds a really nice. I think kids are proud of when they're like, I started in preschool here, and now I'm a senior, and now I'm going to be able to participate in this program. I'll get certified to be it. Like it's that lineage of learning across the end.
Is there anything else?
One more thing.
Okay.
I'll move quickly. School security.
No, it's fine. I just, this is an important piece.
That's huge. So really important in light of things that have happened just in the last month. So I just wanted to highlight a couple of things that we've done already in regards to school security. We have entrapment areas at BHS, BMS, and KNA. An entrapment area is you walk up to the front door, you need to get buzzed in to get into the next section, right? And you can't get into the building fully unless you're buzzed in again. And we've built these like bank teller windows in each building, so that if you need to drop something off of your kid, you can do it right there. You don't need to access the building. You can do it right away. The glass around those entrapment areas have that 3M protective covering, which is bullet resistant. So again, provides an extra layer of security around those areas. In fact, the main office windows are also covered in that 3M product. So those are really important. We want to continue to build out, and I'll show you a couple of slides in a couple of minutes. With the entrapment, we want to do them at Stallbrook and at DePietro. We have camera systems at BHS, BMS, KMA, and we have a couple of cameras over at DePietro. The cameras have been excellent, and I think they're incredibly important for every building. We need to add more at the elementary level.
Mr. Morano, of those cameras, who has the monitors to see where are the monitors right now?
So right now, our tech director has a monitor. Our assistant principals have monitors and access to them, and the police department has access.
So that's where I was going. Are they live feed to the police department?
Correct.
Excellent. Okay.
So it provides them real-time data and information. We also have a program called Raptor, and that's an integrated school safety software and alert system. So it does two things. I download the app on my phone as a teacher. There's an incident in the school. I can send a text, basically a text to all my teachers in the building of an intruder or an issue, an alert, whatever. And then I can also provide information back saying I'm in this hallway, or I'm in this classroom, or I took my kids out as an evacuation and we're somewhere over here, and these are the kids I have with me, but I'm missing so and so. So it provides real-time information to not just us, but also to the police. It also does a second thing. So when you walk into, let's say you walk into the high school and you want to enter the building, you want to dismiss your kid. Before you can do that, it scans your license, and the secretary can see if there's any issues that we need to be aware of before we let you come in, and then it'll print out a pass for you to put on to come into the building. So it provides, again, a second layer of data for our staff. We did Alice training a couple of years ago, right before the pandemic. So Alice is that kind of response to an intruder in the building. So it's alert. It stands for alert, lockdown, inform, counter, evacuate. So we trained our staff on Alice. So if there's someone who enters the building, they're not supposed to be there, and they could have a gun, they could have a knife, they could have some weapon of some sort. What do you do, right? So the process is you alert the school, you inform the school, everyone in the school where this person is, and then the teachers and staff have to make a decision. Can I evacuate, or do I need to lock down to where I'm at? And again, that's where the information piece is really important. And in some circumstances, there's counter. So if an intruder walked into a classroom at the high school, we want to make sure our students are trained to kind of counter that. And what would you do in those situations? So it's kind of some scary stuff, but needed information for our staff and for our kids.
Are there drills being planned? Drills that are surprise drills? Can you do a surprise drill and then have it monitored to see how effective the training's been? I know it's scary.
Yeah.
But saying, hey, we're gonna do a drill, everybody's on alert, they know
Yeah.
what they need to do.
We've done lockdown drills in the past as surprise drills, and then provide information for families right away, right after. With this is a little bit different. So I would want to make sure that the plan is, in the fall, we're going to retrain our teachers with Alice. And then we're going to develop a plan to provide information for families. I want to be fully transparent on what Alice means, what are the implications, what's it look like? And they provide a lot of resources for us to utilize. And then we can talk about a drill, right? Kids need to be trained first before we do a drill. So that's what we're looking at. I met our new school resource officer. She's wonderful. She's already gone through the Alice training, and she's really excited about training our staff in the fall. So we're excited about that. I'm also going to make sure that we have a couple of teachers in each building that are trained in Alice, so then they can provide additional support and training for students and parents and staff. So excellent. And then the school emergency operation plan, that's just our basic crisis plan every building has. It covers not just intruders, but chemical spills.
Mr. Reed? Yeah.
Hey, I just wanted to point out that we had the opportunity to meet at the just before school, 2 weeks before school ended. Training was there, we had the fire chief and we had our Lieutenant Russell from the police department. And I found that to be very enlightening, important discussion, painful discussion, scary discussion, but it was helpful to know that our resources, our emergency resources down have a plan in place, right? And they understand how they execute it. They're only able to share limited details because we're talking about a scary, sensitive subject that the information can't be overly broadcast. And how are we going to react, right? Because that would give information to people that might be inclined to do something terrible. But I just wanted to share with this committee that I found it to be, I was impressed. I appreciate Lieutenant Russell that day too, and our fire chief as well. There are plans in place, it's been thought through, and work in conjunction. Looking forward to the fall, giving more training to teachers and to give some training to the students too. But I'm having a hard time. Like, I'm not sure we could do a drill, right? And I mean, it's an upsetting thing, right?
No, it is. Right?
We did the Alice training a couple of years ago there, and it was upsetting when it was a drill, right? There were people that were upset by it and taken aback by it, and it causes great disruption. And so, but
I
other
understand.
places that have managed this, we're going to get ourselves a little more educated.
I guess to me, the important thing is more is on the public safety side, making sure that our police and our fire are drilled. I don't want to scare an 8-year-old or an 18-year-old. I don't want to do that. But I want to make sure that the administration and our public safety is spot on and can respond. We don't want to have happen in this town what's happened recently. We
I
just don't want that.
Again, I just want to share that after that meeting, I felt, not that I wasn't confident before, but I felt it's a very good basis
You have one of these
right now.
realistic, scary drills, and who knows how traumatic it could be for a young child. I don't want to do that.
Thank you.
Yeah, no, please, thank you.
Did you want to, I know you mentioned the entrapment areas and the improvements at the other schools, and we had talked about coming up next. Good.
Who is the new school resource officer? Sorry, we touched on it, but I don't, who is it?
Nicole Sandel?
She's at the high school, we still need the second one.
Right.
Yeah.
So
Continue to work.
if I can put a pitch in, I would love a second SRO. I think it's super important. I met with Nicole last week. I think I really need to say this. I think it's great having a school resource officer. I have a hard time, this is just my own personal beliefs, around, is it a deterrent? I don't know if the data supports that having someone armed on school property is a deterrent. What I find more valuable is the relationships that the school resource officer builds with kids. And kids are more comfortable talking to a school resource officer as they build those relationships over time that provide great information for not just the school, but for the police. And that's really, important to consider. And having 2 SROs in the district is a huge benefit. And they can split the schools up appropriately and really work to make those relationships strong.
And personally, having sons and daughters, to me, I think it's important to have a male and female presence. Because a female may have just an easier talking to a woman police officer compared to a man. I'm just saying, just sometimes it's simpler. And I think it's a nice presence to have.
Yeah.
If it's possible,
Yep.
one of each would be nice.
But just for clarity, I believe this board has stipulated that it is our expectation that there's 2.
Yeah,
We
I want to.
We want to.
And that's what the chief is
Too.
working to.
Yeah.
We have 6 in the academy. He is working on 6. I think we have 4 in the academy, 2 to go. So, but that is the goal. How quickly we get there. Talking with Mr. Morano, the goal was September. I don't know if we're going to meet that, but we do have somebody else that we're working on getting in there. So.
And they do provide a level of security too. I don't want to say that they don't. They do. But it's that relationship building that's really. So just a quick, to wrap up. we want to expand on those entrapment areas. So Stallbrook and DePietro don't have one currently. Stallbrook would actually be, so BHS, BMS, and KA were easy, right? Because it was just replacing some doors, putting in some security. Stallbrook's a little bit more difficult because it'd have to be a build out.
Yeah.
So if you walk into Stallbrook School, as soon as you walk in, there's a staircase on the right and the main office on the left. So we can't add that vestibule in between. So that would be a build out. And DePietro, so the sketch of DePietro, they have, if you look right in this area, they have that area. The problem is the office isn't conducive to having that set up. So there need to be some changes to the main office area to make that more appropriate for an entrapment area. But they do have the double doors in there currently. So that would just be some addition. So those two pieces I'd like to get done, get on the docket for this year. I'd also like, I guess this is a time for my wish list, to expand the cameras at both elementary schools and at BMS. We have a lot at the high school. I'm not worried there, but BMS could use some more, and the elementaries move them. And I would love to expand that 3M bullet resistant film across all buildings on the first floor on those windows. I just think there's an opportunity there to really protect those areas. It's kind of
In those cameras, yeah, I was thinking this earlier when you talk about cameras, I would want all of the cameras to have live feed to the police station.
Yeah.
So all areas of the schools covered, so they could identify very quickly if there was an intrusion, where that intrusion was what you have for text. Then you're kind of triangulating, different sources where that person, where the intruder is.
and the police can respond immediately.
Yeah, exactly.
Do we consider when you add the cameras, just outside the perimeter of the building, like in parking lots as well?
Yeah, so at the high school, we have cameras that are on the parking lots. BMS, we've built cameras inside. We need to put cameras outside. And KMA has cameras on the outside also, and inside. That's why BMS needs some expansion of cameras.
Goal is to have this on capital in November.
Correct. And when we put in these entrapment areas, we also add fobs, right? So to enter the building, you have a key fob. So you can't get in without the fob. That's very beneficial.
Yeah.
So it cuts down the keys and gaming access. That's it.
Excellent. Not bad.
Not bad.
No, this is very helpful. I just wish that more residents were listening. Hopefully there's a lot that tuned in.
We did the show that talked about the development of putting something this on the website and then doing it.
It'd be great to have one of those cable A shows. I
Yes.
would love to have something.
We did one of all the development in town, but to have almost a panel where maybe Mr. Reed and yourself go through this presentation and we did the last one in 3 20-minute segments.
Yeah.
And then released it, but also sent messages that here's what's going on with the Meehan property and here's what's going with Red Mill, and worked our way south. And it was a great mode of communication to say, I'm sorry you missed it, but if you go back and look at the archives, all your answers are there.
Especially for those people that don't have kids in school anymore. I learned a lot from today because I'm just not connected because my kids aren't in the schools.
It also helps for those residents that don't have children in schools and they're complaining about their taxes. Okay, and here's power in why we're spending the money,
And we're fully transparent.
Yeah.
Anything you want to see, we'll talk about. We're more than happy to discuss. So I'd be open to doing the cable link.
Yeah,
Any
okay,
other
great.
venue.
We should put something together.
Yeah, we can coordinate that with you, Flint, it says something.
Yeah, great.
And then it's easy for you guys too to email.
I will let you-
You can blast email right from Blackboard. I
Right.
usually share everything to the Facebook pages so everyone has it too. So it's very easy.
So yeah,
Go ahead.
No, what you guys have done, I just wanted to add 2 paragraphs if I might have a second.
so I had 3 topics that I just wanted to touch on, and one, and I think it's a negotiation with the police union. I think when there are after-school activities that are at the high school, it's beneficial that our school resource officers have effectively right of first refusal. Difficult with the union, but it is easier when you have, and I'm speaking as the athletic director at the moment, you have a police officer at a football game with 400 people when you have someone that's never done a football game and never has dealt with the crowd control, to have someone that's familiar with the kids, I think it's beneficial, and they don't get a lot of overtime relative to that role. And rather selfishly, although the schools are locked down during the day, we are greatly exposed after school, and having that on the phone is very beneficial, because sometimes I'm the only one there and I'm at a huge disadvantage and could use help in short order. So that's a problem. The third one I think is a bigger thing, and Kelly and I have talked about it maybe more than others, is the process we get to allocating the money to the school department. And I think in my 14 years, we've always been told what the number is that's available to the school department. And anecdotally, when you look at the numbers of increases for English language learners or high needs children, those can spike to the point where money is getting taken away from, for want of a better term, the mainstream population. And I think that that's a battle cry for when we do the budget, to say, maybe we need to make some tougher cuts to ensure that the mainstream number is not dramatically impacted by, no child left behind information. And I think that's something that is contrary to what we've done in the past, but the information is there, knowing that what the contracts are for the school department is set, and that 20% residual is the wild card number that could mean that we make decisions more aggressively to get Chapter 74 and move that process along, because that's a payback. But also recognizing that, for want of a better description, this board has talked about an across-the-board need for the town to have a higher budgetary number. And if it became a point of the school department losing revenue at the sake of public service, then it would be incumbent upon the board, select board, to say that we need to put to the voters a decision on the budget over and above Prop 2.5, to say that if we want to maintain the level of police, fire, and everything else, and not take away from the school department made a very aggressive move to seek an override. But the next need to ensure that they don't have their numbers cut back for the sake of public service is going to fall to the five of us.
That's right.
My 2 cents.
I do certainly agree with having that communication earlier in the process and going down the process together. We'd like to think that as a committee, that we do that with Mr. Rana, with his administrative team, and those series of meetings that we have. But there's certainly no reason why it can't be more roundtable stuff.
Yeah, thank you.
I reach out quite frequently. I like numbers. I like data. That's how I learn. And I might be alone in in loving the giant binder. But I agree with everything that Mr. Connor said. We've had conversations, and I've been vocal in the past about feeling lack of involvement in that budget after being on finance and then coming here, which I thought was a little bit backward, and that's my personal feeling on it.
Anything else?
So we developed a running list across the five of us of things, and you've covered most of them. Just for the sake of the public forum, Primavera demolition. I had a conversation with Mr. Roach about the log jam at the Petro for buses, and it almost makes sense that when the process gets started, that the parent drive-up lane remain where it is, and that the bus lane go to the right of the Primavera, and in between those two roads be parking. But I think from a time frame standpoint, I think we're moving forward with
Bids are due August 18th, so.
For the demolition,
Mr. Fred and I have already had a couple of conversations around that. That's something that's a priority also for us to look at.
Then on here you have basketball court and the committee that the three of us have been on for other projects.
Was that a question? I didn't
No,
understand.
just, it was more saying that's something that
That's on our
wasn't
list.
addressed, but is
Yes.
on our list.
Yeah.
Of things to tackle.
We can come present another time. Field trips,
Yeah.
Yeah.
We can do a presentation of the field process.
Is there anything else?
I just want, first of all, I want to
Mr.
thank you for the invitation for us to be here tonight. I want to thank you, Samara, for, I thought selfishly, I guess, some self-learning, excellent presentation. Thank you. And for, again, for the opportunity to be here tonight. I think it's been a successful school year, and applaud Mr. Morano and his administrative team, our distinguished faculty, and all of our district employees for helping us make a couple of tough years, and we appreciate that. But I wanted this committee to know too, that our school committee is aware of the critical importance of attracting and retaining our Bellingham kids. Okay, we see that our enrollments are down. We see that there's, I'm acutely aware of that slide that shows where kids are going to school that aren't coming here, and we want them to come here. Okay? And so we realize it's a multi-layer approach to do that. And I think that if you look at, and I know that you did, really follow Mr. Marlowe's presentation, right? We're trying to provide diverse, rigorous resources and opportunities to our students so that they can be confident that they achieve their goals here. Okay. Now they are achieving their goals here. Each and every, I know you know that. Many people on this board have kids that have gone through this process, as have I. They are, but I think that sometimes we've got to do two things. We do have to increase rigor, diversity, and some opportunities. And I think that this budget that we built, and the last couple of budgets, frankly, have done that. And applaud Mr. Morano's leadership in that area. But we got to do a better job of broadcasting that and publicizing that, okay? And making kids and making families aware at a younger age. And that's one of our goals of the accomplishments of our Bellingham seniors when they leave here, and where they're going, what they're doing. A couple of exciting things happened this year. We had a career fair that was put together by the guidance department. And it started off by getting a bunch of Bellingham grads, okay, and some, not all of them, but many of them were Bellingham grads who came back to talk about what they're doing, and talk about what education they took to get their training. And it was a remarkable event, and I hope that as we build it, that's going to continue to give kids an opportunity and families an opportunity, parents, as they're making decisions about where their kids are going to go, to see that, listen, kids can come from Bellingham. They don't have to go to BBT to go to a great engineering school. We have some seniors this year that are going on to some great science types of roles of study and got to visit some great places. And you don't need to go to BBT to go in the military. We have some great opportunities as kids are doing all those things. And so we have, first of all, we have to make sure that we're providing those resources. We have to publicize better, I think, show what opportunities are there and what accomplishments our kids are reaching there. And I think we're also acutely aware that there are some areas of performance that we have to improve. Right? We have to show some improvement through the increasing the rigor in the addition of all the curriculum things that we put in there to really balance it and provide consistency and provide rigor. The hope is that that's going to pay off in the form of academic achievement, and so that we can provide the full package. So that people are looking at Bellingham, okay, to either move here or they're looking at it when their kids are in 5th grade, 6th grade, 7th grade, and trying to figure out what they're going to do. That they're going to see that they're going to get a great opportunity. So again, I appreciate the opportunity. I'm sorry to go on and on. It's been a very long
it's okay.
presentation, but I want you to understand that our committee gets that, and that's we're trying to work with this morning.
So, and I appreciate you saying that, because I have been critical. Not critical because I'm a big fan of the Bellingham Public Schools. My kids have gone through and they've done really well. So, I'm a big fan of Bellingham Public Schools. But I have said for years now, it really bothers me to see these families leave to go to other towns. And how can we stop that? So when I've said that, and I'm really happy, one thought came to mind. We talked about this preschool, what we might do. I think that the challenge for us is getting to those younger families with the younger students before they make the decision to go to the charter school, and show them everything that's going on here in the Bellingham Public Schools, and that it is a wonderful place to send your kids. It is a safe place. We do have a curriculum. I think that's a big part of the message getting out to those younger families that are either moving into the town or are here and are having children while they're here, right? Because I think it's too late. Once you get past that 3rd grade, it's like they start hearing stuff from they read Bellingham Unplugged and hear that our water is contaminated and they can't drink our water. It's just crap out there. A lot of disinformation. Thank you. I'm not a big fan, though. No, I did unplug it.
Unplug it.
It is unplugged.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Peter.
Thanks. Anytime
Right.
you want me to present or talk about something, I'd be more than happy.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. And I'm gonna take a quick 5-minute break.
Can we?
Well,
Can we-
say someone has to use the ladies' room or
Oh,
men's
okay.
room.
I didn't know. you-
No, but it's fine if you want to do the public hearing.
No,
because I know she's been on
Mary
there.
has to go somewhere, and so she asked if we could get to her next, Mary McKinnon. So if we could just do her.
So we
quickly.
need to.
Are you going to bed? Is that what you need to know?
Mary,
You can hear it,
You're
you're muted.
muted.
She's doing gifts and grants and FY
Thank you,
22.
gentlemen.
I'm sorry, guys. My son is in the car waiting for me.
Okay,
I apologize. You've had an incredibly informative meeting this evening, and I've learned a few things from Mr. Morano, so thank you for having that presentation. I just have 2 quick orders of business for the board, and in front of you, you should have a copy of a gift and grant acceptance letter. Our department heads continue to do an amazing job at seeking grant opportunities. Our library director was recently awarded a $10,000 grant from the Mass Board of Library Commissioners to partner with some programs related to our businesses, our business community here in town. And Bernadette has put together a program called Open for Business. So I would ask the board to review that and make a motion to accept that grant.
Mr. Chairman, I move.
no, I want you to do that.
I move that the Board of Selectmen accept the gifts and grants as listed herein with said expenditures to be under the direction of the parties noted.
Second.
That was a tie. So
Yeah.
We have first by Mr. McNulty, second by Mr. Sahan. Did I say that right? Sahin? I'll get it right one of these days. Gene. I got it right then, sorry.
That's okay. I gotta accept it.
Do you got it? Do
Yes.
you have it?
Hillary?
Yes,
All
I'm
in
good.
favor?
Aye.
Aye, all opposed? Motion carries. 4-0, because Kelly stepped out, so it's 4-0.
Wonderful, thank you. In the second order of business I have in front of you is a set of end-of-year budgetary transfers for FY22, which is the year that was just closed on June 30th. As I look to close our books for the end of the fiscal year, there are a couple of remaining deficits that do need to be covered. They're listed on the right-hand side of that chart. Snow and ice, library, and police salary accounts. I will let you know that each one of those departments did have sufficient funding in their expense categories, but for simplicity's sake, the transfer that I've presented utilizes one account instead of a variety of accounts. But this will be the final set of transfers as we look to close out fiscal 22.
Sure.
So moved.
Second?
We have a first and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries unanimously, 5-0. Good night, Mary.
Wonderful. Thank you, guys. Have a good evening.
Thank you.
Okay. So next.
10 is with us, I think.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Jessica Small.
Jessica Small. Jessica, hi. Thanks for hanging in with us.
Hi.
So could you just, you're here for a special one-day liquor request, correct? Can you tell us a little bit about it, please?
Yeah, so I own Halo Beauty Salon in Bellingham at 334 Hartford Ave. And we're just looking to have a summer open house kind of as a way to say thank you to all of our clients and thank you to the community. It's going to be 3 hours from 12 to 3 on Sunday, July 17th. And we were looking to serve sangria at the event.
Well, first of all, I want to thank you for coming before the board. I appreciate that because I'm sure there are events like this where they just do it without ever coming to us. So I want to thank you for doing this. Who is going to be serving the sangria?
So it's going to be called, the bartending service is called At Your Service, LLC.
Yeah, okay. And they're tip certified?
Yes, I found them. They're a vendor that is recommended on the town of Medway
Okay.
website. That's how I came across them.
They have the certificate of the.
Then we have
Okay.
liability.
Yep. Move the liability. So good.
Mhm.
Okay. Any
Sounds fun.
questions? Sounds like a lot of fun. Any
Yeah, we put
questions?
it on our Facebook page and it's open to everybody in the community. So you guys are welcome to join.
Joe. All right. Any further questions? Would you like the motion to approve?
So moved.
So moved. We have a second?
Second.
Second. All in favor? Any further discussion? No? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Nay. Motion carries. Good luck. Thank you very
fun.
much. Have fun. You're all
Yeah,
set.
Okay, thanks so much.
All
I
right.
may just a follow-up to this.
Sure.
We're 6 days away from doing this. I wonder how many people do this without requesting the permits or.
A lot, probably.
That's why I wanted to commend.
What is the repercussions if it's done?
I don't know what the repercussions are, to be honest with you.
Certainly open themselves up to some liability. as
liability,
well.
Well,
yeah.
absolutely, if somebody get hurt, it's not all the way like you're having a house party, you know.
She and I have been in contact for a few weeks, and so just worked out. Get around the bottom, yeah. Thanks, Jess.
Thank
You
you.
are free to go,
You're
Jess.
free to go. We're good.
Jessica, I'll be in touch with, this week. I'll get you the license, okay?
Okay, thank you so much.
Yeah, no
All right,
problem.
thank you.
It's a great service to pass along to people.
Yeah.
or something.
Absolutely.
Took up so much space.
Right.
I can't even read that.
All right.
Writing right over you.
Business. Okay. Remote participation policy.
So July 15th, the governor's executive order expires as far as remote participation. We can still Zoom, people can still Zoom in, but board members would not be able to participate in voting and count as part of the quorum after July 15th. There's a lot of indications that the House and Senate, that they both passed their own versions, but they're going to compromise and hopefully have something in play by Thursday. That's the hope. But absent that, boards and committees will have to have a quorum meet, and any members that want to participate virtually will be able to do so, but not vote on any of the subject matter.
So back to where we were before, right? Pretty much.
Yeah, and obviously, we never did the Zoom option.
No, I meant
prior
the
to-
no voting.
Right,
Yeah.
but obviously, we're married to the Zoom option now, so I think it's great for residents and people that travel.
There was a lengthy an article in the Boston Globe, and it was very interesting that at the state level, the proposal was that our state representatives, et cetera, did not have to go into the office. You only had to have one person in the Senate or House chamber to authorize it, but at the local level, you had to have 1/3 physically on site. And one of the proposals was, as you look at the screen in front of you, the bottom right-hand screen, it was mandatory that you had a video component, so you could not put your name up and you could not black out your screen. So we would have to have a mechanism or process to shut that person off from attending.
We can.
So that you don't have the Zoom bomb calls. School committee meeting, had that happen most
Who's to
recently.
say, who's to say it is who they say it is?
Oh,
Exactly.
yeah.
So I think we have, technology wise, we have some.
Yeah, well, that's the proposal. What the House proposal is that every single time a public body meets, it has to be broadcast virtually. So if we're meeting downstairs in that room, it's gonna be broadcast. If we were gonna have, quick meeting like we do sometimes, if we were gonna have a meeting in the upper town hall, we wouldn't be able to. That's the House version. The Senate version is much more straightforward. It's extended for another 1.5 years, the way we've been doing it. So the House and the Senate, hopefully they'll come up with a compromise by Thursday, but absent that, if we don't adopt a remote participation policy, there cannot be remote participation in the form of voting. Board members obviously could sit and participate in the meeting, add conversation to it, but not vote.
So Dennis, couldn't we, I'm in favor of adopting a policy, but couldn't we wait until after
Yep.
July 15th and put this back on the agenda? Let's say it doesn't go the way we'd like it to go.
Yeah.
We could then address this in our next select board meeting.
The only thing is any boards that are meeting virtually, we'll just have to put them on notice that if that expires, we haven't adopted anything. So we certainly could do that. There are a few boards that have a mixed conservation commission still meets virtually, so they would have to meet. So all boards would have to have a majority presence, which would be basically.
it's my personal opinion, I won't put this on anyone else, but I feel that if you're on a board, you've run for an elected position, you've asked to be appointed to a position, you should be here in person. So I'm not in favor of allowing people to vote via the Zoom. I think the Zoom option is great for people to be able to access the meetings, but I think if you are a person on a board, you need to be in here at the meetings. You lose so much when you're in your home and the rest of your board is here, whether it's looking over plans, whether it's the interaction, there's something lost there, and I'm not for it, but that's me. So
We all have our opinions.
yeah,
That's okay.
that's
Well, Concom comes to mind because they were very resistant to even meeting in this room there at the North Center. And they always said they needed space to open up their plans. Yet, contrary to that, they've not been meeting to look at plans in front of them. They're doing it via Zoom. So I think
I agree, disagree. Me, planning board, conservation, when they've got the plans laid out, all members should be there if they're gonna vote. They should all be there to be able to have the plans. I know they can get the plans ahead of time and they can review them, however, they get them electronically, but I mean, we don't have to vote on this.
But to your point, no action needs to be taken.
No.
Just want to make sure the board is aware that if no action is taken July 15th, then anyone on a board needs to be in attendance, or they certainly would be able to vote on it. All right.
Okay. So I'm just gonna say, you guys can say if we want to take action, we can take action, but I prefer we just not take action until the July 15th vote, or what happens with the state, and then we'll take it up from there. And it could very well be, hey, as Mrs. Brandt said, they have to be in attendance if they want to vote. But meetings will still be on Zoom and on public TV. So the folks that don't want to come in, they want to join remotely, our citizens, they can join remotely.
yeah, I'm all for that.
We
Okay.
enjoy being able to sit at home and watch planning board meetings or board of health meetings.
But we don't
Have to
vote.
come in.
Yeah.
No,
So
yeah,
as of
exactly.
July 15th, then, we wouldn't, if nothing happens by July 15th, we wouldn't even then take action potentially on anything until our next
That's correct.
meeting. So,
Right.
yeah, so everyone needs to be
So-
put
so-
on notice at the
So
point.
yeah, exactly. So you need to
We'll
let
send
the-
something out. If nothing happens with the 15th, we'll
I'm
send
fine with that.
that notice out.
Is everybody else okay with that?
Yes.
And I think everyone's been getting the emails from the MMA talking about it.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, next on is the Conservation Commission appointment. Dennis?
Yeah, that is Brian Norton. The board did agree to appoint him. He's a gentleman that was on the Conservation Commission and moved to Franklin. It indicated he'd be moving back in January, then came back in January and asked for it to be extended until June. At this point in time, there's no indication as to when he's going to, or if he's going to be moving back to town. He would like to continue serving. That's his message to the board.
Is there any input from Conservation Commission members, other members?
They endorse his
Endorse it.
Yeah,
continuance.
absolutely. With all his experience, it would be a loss to the Conservation Commission if Brian were not reappointed. He does live out of town. We know, some prefer, but we're also down. So we've got Michael O'Haron, Neil Stanley, who we know lives out of town, Cliff Matthews, Brian, Noel, and Ariane. Yeah, that's how you say it. So we're down now as it is one person. And if we lose another one, then we're down to 5. And this really doesn't be a 7-member board.
We're a 5-member board. I think they can live with it.
My challenge is the experience. So you take that experience out, Brian's experiences, other members that don't have this level of experience. That's my concern. Especially with Concom, especially with everything that's going on in town with the buildings.
So if you take no action, he would continue to serve.
Right.
If you do not want to approve, we have a charter provision that says out of town individuals can serve on committees unless the board can't serve on committees unless the select board approve a non-resident.
How long has been on the board?
10 years.
10 years. He's the longest member?
No.
No,
Cliff's been chair for more than 30.
30 years. But we have other members that haven't served on the board as long, so we have less experience. It takes a good 2 to 3 years.
To get to
If you don't have that experience, it takes sometimes even longer to get up to speed. So losing someone with that level of experience.
And we've been advertising that there's been an open seat on the Conservation Commission for a while now.
And I've
And
reached
there's
out,
been no applicants.
and I've reached out to individuals that I thought would have an interest, that have been in this town for a long time, that think from a they just have no interest. And it's not because it's just, it's big, it's a lot of work.
Yeah, it is. They do.
It's a lot of work.
Is this appointed by?
Us.
Us.
So the select board appointed Ryan in March of 2021 for 3 years. And he is the one that came to the board to notify the board that he had moved out of town.
Yeah, I think I was at that.
He lives in the next town, Franklin.
But wouldn't we have to take some sort of action today because he moved out of town?
You granted him permission to continue serving. You probably should take an action. I said if you take no action, you continue to serve. I mean, technically, he had said, the board had said they would review it again in June.
Right.
And obviously, we were not officially notified until last month. They did not look like his move to Bellingham is imminent.
You could probably do something where you allow him to serve his term,
Or until such time as the successor is.
Right.
appointed.
something like that,
So his term is
2024.
24. Or
Someone needs to make a motion of what we're doing.
Well, I don't know.
Well, I mean, if someone can make a motion, yeah, and you can see what we vote on it.
I'll make a motion that we continue with the appointment of Brian Norton through his 3 years. Even though he lives out of town, he serves the board. That's, I want to see him stay on the board.
So make a motion to allow Brian Norton to fulfill his term
Yep.
appointment ending in 3/24.
That's the first by Mrs. Grant,
Second,
second by Mrs. McNulty. Any further discussion?
Yes. So this board has twice extended him because of a promise that he was going to be moving back to town. That's one. Second, if he wants to be on a conservation commission, he can go be on Franklin's Conservation Commission. Third, I think we're not getting participation on the Conservation Commission because we've had the same leadership for 30 years. And that if there was someone else on the committee who had 8 or 10 years that was able to be chair, it might entice other members to step up, because I believe that, having talked to some members who were on it and got off, they felt that their voices weren't heard. I will be voting no, as always. But along with it.
So I'll just counter that. I don't ever believe that he promised he was moving back. He had the intent, which is very different than a promise. Okay. And secondly, the individuals, and I contacted 3, and I specifically asked the question, is it because of the makeup of the board? Because of what, and I've heard this before, so I wanted to make sure it wasn't because of the makeup of the board, and that, same chair for 30 plus years. And that had nothing to do with it. It was the commitment. It was like almost intimidated by the knowledge of what you need to know to effectively serve. And that's the 3 different individuals told me that. So I said, all right, I get it. I get it.
The knowledge from the chair, or knowledge?
The
from
knowledge just to
or
do the
the
job
overall?
effectively overall. I mean, if you've never read site plans, don't understand, it's a lot to do. It's engineering, there's a lot that goes on. And that's why I say that. And I think it's important that we have people that are knowledgeable, that really understand the laws and site plans, can read them, understand, and provide some analysis. That's all. It's a tough, it's not an easy, and I've seen other towns make big mistakes with engineering because of inexperienced Concom. Sorry, and I won't say the town. There's 2 towns that I've seen big mistakes made because of inexperienced Conservation Commission people.
So you guys saying he's not valuable?
What's that?
You guys saying that he's not valuable, he's,
What I'm saying, he has a lot of experience. We don't have a replacement for him. If we had someone that came in and I understand, if we had someone came in that had his level of experience that wanted the position, I would agree with Mr. Connors here. I'm purely making my decision based on experience and what this town needs, not because he lives in the next town.
so do we, I know you put the motion, I'm just trying to.
We're in the discussion. That's okay.
We don't get to discussion unless it's seconded.
That's
which is
right.
Where we're at. So now we're in the discussion.
My question is,
You
do
can
we
have-
have to, agree or put on a motion for his full term, or can we at least discuss it further, maybe like you put another timetable?
We can't do that.
No, we cannot?
We
You could modify.
could modify, but we've extended it
Oh, okay.
enough. I think we need to make a decision as a board. That's how. I
Well, the
mean,
motion
it's-
was to let him fulfill his term that
His
he was
term.
appointed to.
Yeah.
Right.
2024.
For
Yep.
2024. And he may or may not get if he doesn't want to, he may not go for reappointment, but he
Right.
may not get reappointed. The makeup of this board could be very different then too.
Just to further the point. So the Board of Health has 3 members, and we think they should be 5, obviously. We have 5 members, the school committee has 5 members, the Concom has 7. I don't think that they are impaired by having 5. Should they drop below what is conceived to be their threshold.
But our charter says 7, so doesn't that?
Correct.
Yeah, so if we said 5, then we're really going against the
Or we
charter.
could leave it as an open position. And still be, that there's supposed to be 7 does not mean that you need 4 on that committee. Because
Majority of those present.
majority of those
Used
present,
to think it was
whereas
majority.
this board can't go below 3 and have 2 out of 3.
That's right.
Correct. Right.
Any further discussion?
No, I'm just, I don't have any question.
No, or any, do you need any, I mean, we can take time. I mean, if you want some more clarification, that's okay. That's why we're here. I mean, I just don't want to just jam this.
I mean, I don't have a lot of. You guys said he's valuable and he needs it.
He's experienced.
He's experienced. I mean, if there's nobody else to replace him, I mean, it's obviously, there's a lot of work involved. I understand that. So that perspective, it needs the things that has to get done, it needs
I'm going to call for a vote. So discussion is over. I'm going to call for all in favor.
Wait, was there a second on the motion?
Yes.
Cindy-
Oh, right,
Cindy
perfect,
did
sorry.
second, yes. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Sign.
You vote?
No, I said I didn't.
You said aye?
I
Okay,
said
so
nay,
we have
sorry.
motion carries 4-1.
That's on in my entire tenure. I've never voted for anyone.
Right,
And I
yeah.
respect that. I mean, I just.
Because I didn't have a lot of, as I said, it's not, I mean, I'm just,
You know what might
Yeah.
be helpful? Have
Yeah.
you met with Cliff Matthews or Ann
I
as
think. I
part
might
of
have,
your indoctrination? You might
Yes,
want to
that would
spend a
be
little time
Okay.
to understand what they go through.
Okay.
That would be helpful. So maybe the
I
next
think it'll
time
be very
around.
enlightening for you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Really?
Yeah.
Definitely.
I think
We'll
so.
reach out then.
He's done a great job.
I know
Sahan
that.
has getting up to speed. on,
Yeah,
all
that's
the
great.
departments.
I
Spent a
think
lot of
that's-
time. I know the departments appreciate it as well.
No, I appreciate everything, what everyone's done over the years, obviously, this is our town, this is our home, it's obviously, we don't care, it's when this to get done, that's why I was asking too many questions, it's try to understanding, I didn't have a lot of.
That's
Yeah.
okay.
Okay.
The town voted.
Yeah.
For you, right? That's your responsibility to do
No,
that. That's
absolutely, yeah,
okay.
that's what I'm to get
great.
it done for, yeah.
Just
absolutely.
have a follow-on question.
Yeah, sure.
So,
Yeah.
my comment about Cliff being on the chair for 30 years, where does the bylaw or charter stand with limiting the
Sure.
number of?
I brought it up and no one wanted to jump on that bandwagon with me to have term limits on chair. I brought it up. You'll have to ask the other members of that committee.
And I think, I mean, Mr. Reed's gonna be chair of the school committee 5 years, and obviously I've been a proponent.
Yeah.
Perhaps more than others, that I think that cycling out of this is good because it promotes everyone's voice. I mean, I would think, Sahan, that in your second term is when you would consider being vice chair or chair, just by the natural course of getting up to speed. And I think there's value in ensuring that committees don't feel like their hands are tied by not putting them in the bylaws. And if it's not, is there at town meeting, it will be brought up by me.
So the makeup of the charter review, you have individuals that have been chair for consecutive years. And they're not about to want to give up their chairpersonship, their chairship, the chairship. And that's part of it too, I think. in
That doesn't
general.
make it right.
Doesn't make it right.
And
It
look
doesn't
at our-
make it right.
Well, as I
Doesn't-
comment,
I'm just saying, it doesn't
Oh,
mean,
no,
I'm
I'm
not
not
saying it
saying
makes
it's
it
your
right.
opinion.
No,
It's like,
no.
shoot.
I think if you're on a committee that you either have a voice,
Yeah.
and if you're gonna just sit there and not
Yeah.
comment just to be the seventh member of a committee.
Right.
What's the point?
My personal opinion, I think it should be a term limit. That's my personal opinion. I think it should be. To get the young, guy at least different ideas into the mix, like the local, state level and federal level, but I think it should be.
And make no mistake about it, no one, there isn't a person who I've been on a board with who hasn't made the mistake of getting to close a public hearing the first time they go through it.
Yeah.
It's just, it's a thought process.
Anyway.
Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Other business are May abatements. Oh, Dennis, do we want to talk about Taunton Street first? Is that old business?
That's gonna be under his town administrator.
Okay, great, your report. Okay, thank you. So May abatements?
Okay. Open that. Okay. Do I read the amounts first? I'm sorry, I know I asked that.
You can make a motion
Yep.
to abate the following charges for the month of May.
Okay. I'd like to make a motion to accept May 2022 payments as follows.
Yep.
Capital improvement charge $180, sewer $22.20, stormwater 48, trash 244, water 324. Grand total is $818.20.
Second.
Do a first and a second by Mrs. Grant. Any questions?
These are some of the lowest abatements I've seen.
Pretty
Yeah.
low.
I got these in my.
He's really
last
done
one.
awesome
Came in at the
job.
right time.
Just a quick, so the Arnold Spencer House Association, they get Lifeline Senior. Is that because everyone in the house is seniors or because of some people?
Some people are.
Okay, any other comments or questions? No? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Nice. Okay, I think we have our abatements, gifts and grants, liquor license.
New
revoke.
business.
New business. Do we have any new business?
I would just like to open up the fall town meeting warrant. If I don't do it this meeting, I think the August meeting will be too late. So I'd like to have a motion to open the fall town meeting warrant with a close date of Friday, August 26th.
So moved.
Second.
Do it first by Mrs. Grant, second by Mrs. McNulty. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Any other new business?
August
Okay,
26th.
Dennis, your report?
Couple of quick items. I received an email at 4:30 this afternoon from KP Law relative to an issue we had with a fire engine and some damage that was done while it was out to be repaired. And a great job by our town council working out a settlement where the full cost of the repairs were covered. And that does require a vote and signatures by the select board. Essentially, it was our fire pumper that went out for some repair work, was left outside, one of the pumps froze, and the company basically was saying, not our problem. And the Chief Gentile did a great job pressing the issue, working with our town council and getting the full amount of the repair, which was done at
Right.
another dealership, accomplished. So the truck obviously got been back in service, and the original proposal was they were gonna provide, I think, $3,000 or $4,000, and town council stayed with it until we got an agreement that we felt covered everything, and it does cover everything.
Right.
So it does require a vote of the board to approve the settle agreement and release as presented by attorney, worked with him before, Saragu, with regard to the settlement agreements.
Okay, do we have a motion to approve?
So second,
So moved by Mrs. McNulty, I believe.
Yeah.
Mr. Connors was the second. Any
Quick
questions?
the legal work was part of our contract with them, not extra.
Correct. No extra.
No
expense.
extra cost.
Yeah, no extra.
All right. All in favor?
I,
Aye. All opposed? Motion carries 5-0.
right, I'm
The
gonna
chief had given
give
me
us
one on his
on.
letterhead. I don't think it should be on his letterhead.
Okay, well, I just have the signature page, then I can have them sign.
That's great, except the way they wrote it up, there's one signature goes on the first page and the
And
rest.
the
of
rest-
No, I
it-
have,
So,
I have that.
We have this without,
Excuse
you
me?
want with letterhead?
No, it doesn't need to have letterhead.
so I have just this page. with-
Oh, good. Have that
Yeah,
one
and then
signed.
we can have
Perfect.
him send this without.
Here, I'll just sign this here and then.
Actually,
No, no, no,
nobody
no,
has
I
the
have,
one
I have
that
one
we
of
should-
those.
Original?
Yeah.
Okay, great. Excellent.
Sign this one, and then
Perfect.
I'm gonna pass this around, John, if you can sign that, that's the transfer.
Okay, yeah.
So you mentioned the traffic report for Taunton Street. I don't know if everyone had a chance to look at it. It was somewhat eye-opening in that what we've been saying right along is we can't just arbitrarily put out traffic control signs, speed limit signs, stop signs, et cetera. They're up. I don't know that we go and take them down, because if you were gonna do that, you go to South Main Street and start taking those down as well, because those were just arbitrarily put up as well.
Right.
But I think there's a process, and that's what we tell residents when they come in. There are some concepts there that make sense for Taunton Street. I think one of them we've initiated was the solar powered speed limit signs. They did seem to say that they're effective in roadways like this. I think to look at a roundabout.
I love that
on a
idea.
freeway- On a freeway,
I saw that. Oh,
it just doesn't make a whole lot of sense, I don't think, but I think the one thing the other thing was the speed humps. They did say a slight raise, removable, so you can remove them in the wintertime. I think eventually we want to try something like that somewhere.
well, Mendon has one
Yeah.
right by their police station, and it seems to work pretty well, and because it's not really
Oh, it
a,
works great.
it's not like
Yeah,
a little
but-
hump, it's a bit, so they're easy to,
It's one of the most-
See, I've raised this
Plow
many
over it.
times
Yeah, I know.
before, and the reaction's been, our lawyers say, no, there's too much liability, but now we're hearing
Yeah.
from people that actually, this is what they do for a living, saying, yeah, this is an acceptable means.
Well, insurers and attorneys are always going to
Yeah.
look for us to take the least amount of risk. So it is something that we can, it's something that, as you know, I wanted to see on Elbow Street and
Mhm.
Pleasant Street, South Bellingham, but I think we can look at them. Subtle humps, they have to be well marked, because the concern is, especially a street like Taunton Street, someone comes driving down there 40 miles an hour in the dark, and doesn't see that pump ahead, and they're on a motorcycle, they're gonna wind up in the swamp somewhere. That's the issue.
Yeah.
So I think we need to, I don't know that that's the right road for something like this, but definitely we can initiate the flash or the speed limit signs, illuminated speed limit signs.
What was the issue? Oh, go ahead.
I thought the issue was lack of light because of the shading in that area, that we wouldn't be able to do solar panels.
We have to find the right conditions. They suggested that we could locate them in their report. And they've actually physically visited the sites.
So to me, what was most interesting was when you look at what the speed limit is in the study, it really wasn't that much greater than 25 miles an hour. It was in the low 30s for the most part, right?
Yeah.
Compared to a center, because when they were here, they're saying they're going 40, 50. Well, the study showed they really weren't going that fast.
Yeah.
I mean, I agree we need to slow things down, but
Yeah.
31, 32, 33 is not that
it's
fast.
not 45 or 50.
And that's what they were saying
Yeah.
when they were here.
Yeah.
Right? So to me, it was like, and we know there's always a slight level of exaggeration when you want change, but when you look at the study kind of proved out what we thought already.
Yeah.
But I don't mind putting in some mitigation.
Yep.
One, I think it would be helpful because there are small children.
Yep.
The piece that's concerning to me was just how narrow that road is for just people riding bikes or walking or running. It's a narrow road
Yeah.
in some places.
It's not an easy fix to that.
It's not.
Yeah,
No.
yeah, it's,
So slowing it down as much as we can will help because the road is so narrow. So whatever we can do to slow it down, and even having some, and I know we've talked about, we don't even have enough police officers, but to even once in a while have someone down there, enforcing the speed limit,
Yeah.
which is what, 25, right?
I believe it's
30.
30.
It's 30, it's 30, right?
It's posted 25.
Yeah, but it is 30, so they're just going 1 or 2 miles per hour over what the legal speed limit is on that street.
I mean, doesn't it become a question of whether we instruct the chief to authorize for a overtime detail paid for by the tickets?
Gotta be careful on that, but I get you. Where you're going. Yeah. You can't say paid for by the ticket.
Yeah, because then you have.
Because then they'll be giving out tickets to pay for those, yeah.
I mean, if
They're speeding, they're speeding.
if the neighbors say that they are, I mean,
Yeah.
I have to stop myself going to work every day on Blackstone Street, and this study makes me wonder whether 25 on Blackstone Street is legitimate.
Well, we know that on South Main Street, it's not. The speed limit signs on South Main Street.
But on Blackstone Street, they are shooting radar 2 or 3 hours a day at 25 miles an hour out of school zones.
Absolutely shooting radar on Blackstone Street.
They are constantly sitting in the access road at
Mhm.
the library.
Every time I go down that
That's
road.
good to know.
Huh.
Yeah.
I
They were there
Come on, you
today.
seriously?
Yeah, every
They
single
They
time
all
I
wave
go
to you
down.
when they see the lights. Like,
They always want to.
But I got nailed it this way a few weeks ago.
Thanks for the heads up.
Yeah.
Yeah, if ever, certainly we can get a copy of if you saw in the report, well, actually, I needed a full-blown report, but the actual speed regulation was done in the early 1970s, so things haven't changed that much since then.
So I don't think we're gonna take any action tonight, but, or we're getting out the
I
light in.
think those help.
Let's
It
start there.
indicated there that it is an effective means,
So let's start there, and if it doesn't make a dramatic material change, then maybe we put in the speed bumps as a secondary measure. See if we can slow things down,
bring it back in.
bring it back.
So those solar powered speed.
Yep.
those-
They let you know how fast you're going, type of thing.
Those are pretty much like a self-sufficient, right? You just put it in there and that's
They're
it.
expensive.
They are,
They
they
are.
are, like $3-4 grand, right?
Yeah, the good ones are a few $1,000
Yeah.
for Windows, and you need to put the better ones in.
What we're gonna run into in this town is that everyone that has a street like Taunton Street is gonna be running in here wanting those solar powered. It's gonna happen.
I don't know if you saw the improvements that we made on Main Street. We had some bad accidents
Mhm.
there. We upgraded the lights, and we have the flashing arrows there at that curve. We had multiple accidents. They picked up, and Sergeant Rolls observed the fact that we flipped over to LEDs. I guess we put a lower level of wattage on those poles.
Yeah, but it was equivalent
It was
to,
equivalent.
it's equivalent to what that was up there, but the way that Rolls describes it is that LEDs don't spread the light
the light.
like those other ones do.
Yeah, he felt it was dimmer, but the
High pressure,
flashing,
sodium, or whatever it is.
the flashing arrows seem to, or chevrons. seem to do
Hillary.
the job.
Stuff I never knew I did.
Wow.
That was impressive.
I like the idea, just slowing it down, as much as we can.
Kinda like
And I
it's
think,
Yeah, exactly.
especially being a pass-through town, and there's a lot of towns that, I've seen these things all around, pretty much Norfolk County,
Everywhere.
all
now.
different towns, yeah. And I think, as soon as when you see it, and something is
down.
flashing, people automatically slowing it down. I think you might, I know it's expensive, but I think it will be a good investment, it's
I agree. I know Franklin and Midway have flashing stop signals. at
Yeah, those are, yeah, it's-
intersections. But, yeah. All right.
So do we have to do a
we'll move
motion on that, or?
Yeah, why don't we, if the board would like to place those on Taunton Street, 2 on Taunton Street, the flashing speed limit signs, Don
See
likes
what
to
it
have.
So
Don likes
moved.
to have it officially.
Yeah,
So we have a first by Mrs. Grant, a second
Second.
by Mrs. McNulty. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion carries.
So
Should
two,
we send it to the people who attended that night? Maybe a copy of the report and the plan of
Yeah,
action.
certainly
we can
send
do
a
that.
copy.
If we have a list, we'd love to send in that
I know
report.
Hillary's got the
Great,
contract
I
that'd be
do.
great. Yeah.
So we're gonna tell Dawn too.
to
Or-
flashing speed. signs.
And do we know, in according to that report, where we should be?
We can ask them that if they didn't identify.
Yeah, let's do
The
that.
report was, had a lot of backup information that I don't think it resolved.
Mhm.
Oh, no, you did get the full.
We
report.
did.
You got it.
Yeah,
That's great.
Yeah, it was very good.
I take that back. Household hazardous waste, July 23rd, we'll be doing a code red municipal electricity aggregation program. We've had a great program for the last 6 or 7 years anyway. It's probably longer than that. I don't know what the bid numbers are gonna look like. Our generation piece is 10.5 cents right now, but I've got a feeling that actually, I know the summer rate for Eversource and National Grid is probably up 14-15 cents per kilowatt hour. It's probably gonna be upwards of 20 cents when they announce what the winter rates are like. So if they're going up, and so what we're gonna, we have a program where we competitively bid. We have a firm that does it for us. The generation portion of your electric bill, you probably have the towns, because everybody goes to it by default, unless they opt out for a different provider. So we will be going out in September. I know the lights keep flickering.
You know, I was just looked up on
Yeah.
There's some loud music out in the parking lot.
So we'll be going out to bid. We'll see what the numbers come in like, and we may very well decide that we don't want to go forward if the numbers aren't right. We may opt out of the program. The downside is if we opt out of the program, we're going to start from scratch. If in fact we decide to bring it back in. So, but anyway, that's on the horizon.
All right, I think that's it, right, Dennis?
That is all I had.
All right, is there anything else?
When is our next meeting, Hillary?
Well, right now, we just have one scheduled for August 22nd, but I think we're gonna have to.
Is that at the senior center? What's the cookout?
No.
Oh,
No, we'll need to do it one before Bellingham Days for the. We'll just need for PJs for the one day.
Okay.
We'll need to do
We might
that.
have something else that comes up between.
Yeah.
So we'll have to do that the week of. So I'm not here the week of August 8th, so we have to do it
Do it before that.
the first week of August.
August 1st,
Well, that first week, we don't, if we're just gonna do,
the 1st is the Monday.
yeah.
We don't have to do it on the Monday.
Yeah, if we're just gonna
We
do
can
a
just
quick
figure out.
meeting to do a,
One day.
one day liquor license for PJs at the beer tent, we can do it during the week, even during the day type of thing. I can send something else.
You know, we need is 3 to 5.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
When is the senior cookout again? Do you remember?
We don't-
It's okay.
One
It's on
moment, please
Thursday.
hold.
Oops, I spelled it wrong.
Our candidates at the academy.
We do have candidates.
August
Those folks
18th.
who failed.
Thursday, August 18th.
Yes.
Yes, I think that's, yeah.
Yep.
Is it?
Thursday,
Thursday,
August
August
18th.
When before she went.
We adjourn?
No,
Wait,
we
no,
haven't yet.
I'm sorry, I wasn't listening, what did you say? When is the?
August
18th.
18th.
August 18th.
Thursday.
Yeah, we won't,
After Bellingham Days.
that's after, right?
Yes.
And we weren't planning on having a meeting, that was just the board cookout.
Yes.
It's time to sit down
I'm
one
all
more
set,
item.
Dennis, thanks a lot.
You're all set. Is there anything else from the longer meetings you've had in a long time?
Jesus.
I apologize, I didn't realize that
Yes.
Peter was gonna speak
We've been here
that.
since 5 o'clock.
Yes.
Kelly and I have been here,
Yeah, I would have done that, I would have.
Well, Dennis been here since 8 o'clock.
Yeah, I
Did you
would've-
even go home?
I would have done the agenda a little bit better had I known that.
We're okay.
I don't think any of us were anticipating.
Okay.
No. See that our agenda has been. What do we say? Satisfied and
Whatever.
fulfilled. I call for a motion to end tonight's meeting.
Someone.
Second.
Second, first and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Everyone have a good night. Thank
Thank
you
you.
for those who's hung in there with us.